Hello, everyone. Welcome. All right. My name is Kyla Rae, your host of the Coaching Shop, where coaches come to talk shop and build worlds that work. And in tonight's episode, we're sitting down with Aurélie Cotugno, a PCC executive and personal development coach. She's also a mentor here at Ideal Coaching Global. And we're going to be talking about radical responsibility. And this is the idea of taking full ownership of what happens in your life, not in a way to place blame on yourself or feel guilty about things that have happened, but so that you're in full agency to be able to create what happens next. So tonight we're going to talk about responsibility as creation, as freedom, as peace, and really shifting from this idea that we have to react to life circumstances, that we're a victim to what happens to us, and instead claiming our power and taking responsibility for what's occurring and what to do next. So, Aurelie, welcome.
Thank you, Kyla. Thank you. So excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Always great to see you.
Wow.
So let's jump right in. I see people are coming on the call. We also have a live audience with us. So if you're here with us, go ahead and use the chat. We want to hear from you. We want you to be a part of the conversation. If you have a question come up, a comment, a distinction, there's going to be a lot of coaches on the line and you all have value. So feel free to jump in as well. So radical responsibility. Aurelie, when we started talking about this, you said something really profound to me, and that is this idea that radical responsibility actually is how you've discovered peace in your life.
Mm,
So, can you explore that a little bit for me?
okay. Yeah. So I think I need to come from how I was functioning to how the change that created for me, right? So I think I lived about 49 years of my life going into something happened. I would initially maybe point fingers, kind of defend, and then immediately after defending, internally I would go into blaming myself, right? Um, and there was also this constant uh, turning in my head of what could have, should have been, or how it would have been better. Even when something wasn't necessarily failing, but being attached to um, how I could have done it better, and I guess, like, how can you have peace functioning like that, right?
Mm,
That's like a constant being pulled, not being present, being pulled to having regrets or remorse and then I learned this concept of responsibility being um, accepting what happened, accepting that the past couldn't have been any other way, and that I have no power over the past, and then looking at taking an account of where I'm at, and then now what can I how can I show up now with what I have. um so why peace? Because like you said, taking ownership, right? um it's like when you ask me the question about peace, to me it's like all the way at the end of like what is it, why it's important, how does it work, right? But eventually getting to peace, because I would say the important piece to this is that responsibility, it's me bringing in what, like, being who I need to have what I want to have, to experience what I want to experience, regardless of how anybody else is showing up, right? So I'm taking ownership of what I want to experience. And of course, the context around me, other people are going to affect it. but I can be at peace knowing that I took responsibility for what I was going to bring, what I was committed to bringing, right? The result, the end result is going to depend on other people as well, but not my peace.
Mm.
I don't know if
No,
it's clear.
that's powerful. Like things are going to happen, but that doesn't dictate how we respond to them, is what I'm hearing. And so the responsibility that we're taking is for our own participation.
Yeah. So, like recently, an example, someone very close to me going through heartache, right? And this is a tough one because you don't want to hear right now that this is an opportunity, right? What is this illuminating for you? um, but it's responsibility is showing up very clearly for me in this case. Like, wow, okay, so responsibility can be like, how have I contributed into this situation? Not like, what did I do wrong? Oh, I'm this and I'm that, and I always do this or I always do that. But more, how did I co-create this situation? Um, and then there's the step of looking forward. What do I want to have? Right. And responsibility actually had me see in relationships instead of thinking, oh, I want this type of person. This is the blueprint for my person. It's more, what is the relationship I want to have? What does that look like? And then who do I need to be in that relationship?
Mm.
Right.
Yeah, but like you said, it's when you're in it, like someone just broke my heart and I'm deep in that sorrow and loss, I'm grieving.
Mm.
We can't just jump to, okay, well, who are you going to be now as a
No,
coach,
definitely.
right? So, what is kind of that process? How do you meet people where they are and
Mm.
validate that they are going through something deep and hurtful and that their emotions are perfectly okay and human, right? How do we
Yeah.
meet people where they are?
Well, I think you said the magic word validating, right? Um, Having empathy, acknowledging, um, walking by the person, um, and giving them that, acknowledging that they get to have that time to feel what they're feeling. And I feel like responsibility in that moment is opening showing them a little window where the light is, that they can go there when they're ready, that this is the next step, or this is like the light that they could go toward. You said something when we were speaking the other time that I was like, wow. Because talking about how responsibility takes you out of victim into ownership, right? And you said we're walking out of victimization. We're not running out of it,
Mm,
right? So I thought of this then where we meet people where they are, and yeah, we accompany them to walk toward responsibility. And yes, it is sensitive, right? Because it can appear, if I'm here with my concept of responsibility, 100% responsibility and take ownership, and whoa, people can be really hurt, turned off, right?
right. Yeah. Like, I don't even want to hear that right now, kind of like you said.
Yeah.
And I think as coaches, we want to pull them into solutions so quickly, and that can be a trap. We want to
Mhm.
pull them into no, responsibility is peace right away. I heard this awesome podcast and it taught me, that you need to take full ownership. But then we don't want to skip that validation. Our clients are human, we're human, and and letting people know that it's okay to be a hot mess sometimes. I used to have a coach. He's actually a dear friend of mine as well. And he will do something really kind of cheeky sometimes with me and with other people. He'll say, maybe I come to the call and I'm really angry about something, right? And I'm steaming about it. And he'll be like, okay, how much time do you want?
Mm.
Right? And I'm
Well,
like, oh, this is a big one. Joe, his name is Joe. This is a big one, Joe. I need 10 minutes. And he'll put a timer on and he'll just sit for 10 minutes and totally engage in whatever emotion I'm in. We'll vent. He'll be on my side, telling me how awful that situation was or that person, and he'll just let me get everything out, right? And then when that timer goes off, it's okay.
mm.
This, what you said earlier, so what? Now what? Right?
Yeah, I love that. I don't even really like let myself go there as a coach to really like go in it, be the cheerleader or let the person, I mean, like even let the person amplify with them. But that sounds powerful because
It
you
dissolves something,
mm,
right?
mm,
If we don't let ourselves be human, if we don't let ourselves say what we really need to say, it
mhm,
lives in us, right? It
yeah,
gets like stuck almost in the spaces inside of us.
yeah. And I want to say responsibility bringing peace, that's what it is for me, but it could be different for someone else. I would imagine that for some people, responsibility means power.
Mm,
And maybe that's what they're looking for, to feel empowered.
mhm,
Um, so it's really for each person to, and the same way, how do you step into responsibility? How do you step into really taking that ownership? What it takes is also personal, I think, right? For example, I think of it takes forgiveness, right?
mm,
Um, Forgiveness of oneself, acceptance of the situation, of what is, but a lot of times it could take self-forgiveness, really stepping into self-forgiveness. Um, I was also thinking how this conversation relates so much to other conversations like the one you had with Aaron about the willingness to be wrong,
mm,
right? So it takes some of that too. In the step of like, okay, this is what happened. And now in the step of taking accountability before I can, taking accountability before I can now own what I'm doing next, how I'm showing up next. That piece here,
mhm,
the willingness to be wrong, the forgiveness, that's going to be personal, what it takes
mm.
for each
Wow,
person.
what a powerful question for your client. What do you need to forgive yourself for in this moment? Because so we always think about forgiving someone else, right? Well, that person did this to me, right? But a lot of the great masters, gurus, mystics throughout time say that forgiveness is always about ourselves.
I
And,
believe.
and we love to project blame onto other people because we don't want to feel responsible, right?
Mm,
So we project that onto other people. But at the end of the day, it's always about somewhere inside of us, there's something we need to forgive ourselves for.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I take it as far as whatever, whatever we're triggered about in someone else is a reflection of what's in us that we haven't dealt with, that we haven't accepted, that we haven't forgiven ourselves for, or we haven't worked on to improve. right? So, yeah, reminds me of a trainer. We always say, well, there's no such thing as uh, self-love or self-forgiveness. It's like love is love or compassion is compassion. You can't have it for others if you don't have it for yourself.
Mm,
None of those things, right?
right. Moving away from the dualistic paradigm that we often live in as a society in general. Everything is black or white, right or wrong, and really moving away from that into a non-dualism stance of it's all connected, it's all one. And without going too mystical here, uh,
Mhm.
this idea that when I forgive myself, I forgive the world. And when I can do that, nothing can make me a victim anymore. And that's the whole point, I think, of this distinction is that if as soon as we say that person's to blame, we become a victim and we lose our agency. And not like, I don't want to say like there's not a place to use this word victim because there is, right? There's a time and a place to use this word. People are victims to things that we don't want to take that away from them right now, right? But um but in this conversation, we're saying that as soon as I blame someone else, it's almost like I give them my power because now I can only respond to the situation in relationship to their wrongdoing, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's the victimization, the victim mindset that you're talking about. It's like the world, life is happening to me. And sometimes I use that trick, right? Simply to remove the to me. When you feel like someone is doing something, they're doing
Mm,
this to me. Well, what if you just remove to me and they're just doing this?
I love that.
Little trick, little easy trick, right? Um, one one thing that is also central and so powerful in this is this idea of 100% responsibility on all sides, right?
Mm,
Meaning, I think a lot of times what's preventing us, the resistance um, to stepping into responsibility is this this automatic thing that we have about, well, if I take ownership, if I take responsibility for myself, the other person's gonna get away with it.
mm.
And then sometimes we could be inauthentic about, no, but I also want them to grow.
Or I want them to be punished, right? I
Yeah,
mean, that's
well,
where I go. I go real dark, real quick.
right, but when we become inauthentic, that it's about, no, but I also want them to have their growth. Well, don't worry about their growth. You do yours, right? And I believe that it's not even just about, oh, you're going to show the example, but yeah, you're also going to inspire people. You can inspire people, but it's also you are now contributing in a different way. So you're affecting the dynamic in a different way. There's no way that on the other side the other person or the situation is not going to be responding in the same way when you respond in a different way, right?
Mm. I love this because it's like it puts me at choice. Because if I am viewing the situation like this person's to blame and they should be punished, there's only so many ways I can respond in that paradigm, in that model, right?
Mhm.
There's only so many because they have to be punished or they have to grow, like you said, which is so much kinder. They need to grow, right? But still, there's only so many ways we can respond now inside of that container. Whereas if I remove that, I'm suddenly at choice to a much wider array of possibilities.
Yeah, now my choices are not well, my choice or my range of movement is not conditional upon somebody else. And also my expectation, my, the vision I have, the result I want to have, it's not conditional about how somebody else is showing up.
Mm,
And that's what I think is so powerful.
really? Now, I want to circle back to something you said because I think we kind of glazed over it. And that is, okay, so I'm taking 100% responsibility. That isn't me letting anyone else off the hook. People do horrible things, right? I mean, we can just admit that. So something horrible happens. Someone makes a really big mistake and they do something unkind. They do something that just isn't, we know, steps outside of what is considered good in the world, right? So it's not that we're letting them off the hook. What do you mean by everyone is 100% responsible?
Okay, so if I'm gonna choose to go away, so the responsibility doesn't mean necessarily I let them off the hook or I don't take action,
Hmm.
right? Because peace meaning like, oh, let bygones be bygones. No. Responsibility can mean I am gonna take an action that is gonna have consequences, that is gonna have a price for me as well. But I'm again, responsibility, I'm willing to pay that price as well. But it's the choice that, okay, so I think we need to go back to values.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna act based on my values, not based on what I want for someone else. Because one, what is the other choice of responsibility? If I don't go with responsibility, what do I go by? Me forcing somebody else's change, me forcing a lesson on someone? Can we do that? Like, is that ever efficient? Can I want something for someone else? So it's the idea of it reminds me of, to me, it's exactly the thing about, sorry if I go on different tangents, but everything is connected. Feedback. You cannot give feedback as a way of you resolving your trigger.
Hmm.
If you do something that really triggers me, I need to go find my peace. I need to go bring my energy back to neutral, right? Look at my interpretations, whatever meaning I made out of what you said. And once I'm back to neutral, I can offer feedback to you. But I can't go to you and give you feedback as a way of me getting my peace or me feeling some resolution. That's not going to happen.
Hmm.
So that's also how responsibility shows up. See, what is it that I need to nurture myself, to honor myself in this situation? And maybe it's going to be something tough to do. Um, but if I, so that's the responsible way. If I think I'm going to feel resolved by you being punished, did you notice, for example, if you're heated, you're in an argument, you're heated, and the person says, I'm sorry. A lot of times that doesn't bring us peace. Okay, great, but, right?
Right.
It's the idea that nobody else can actually make me feel. Sometimes we want the other person to make us feel better, to make us feel good, to make us feel like we didn't do anything wrong, right? If I know I did you wrong, and then I'm waiting for you to absolve me or to be like it's okay, I'm still going to need to take my ownership of that because this is still going to.
Yeah, it's kind of like trendy these days, or at least I hear it a lot. people saying something along the lines of, "Oh, you triggered me," right? You triggered me. As if they're responsible for your triggers, or if they have a catalog of your triggers written down somewhere. They should have known not that that one thing you said was going to trigger some childhood trauma in them or something. And it reminds me of the story our founder at Ideal Coaching Global tells sometimes. Her name is Betty Spruill. She was actually on just a last episode with us. And Betty talks about this story. So she used to do this work inside prisons, women's prisons. And she'd go and she'd be discussing, not coaching, but coaching distinctions like we're talking about right now. And in the hopes of empowering these women, right? So she was in a room with a bunch of prisoners, and she really made one of them mad, right? Whatever she said. And she triggered him, right? And this woman gets up and she's yelling at Betty, and she stands up and she's coming towards Betty aggressively. And Betty's listening and sitting there. If you've ever met Betty, you can imagine this. And the woman comes up to her and says, "I'm gonna smack you." And Betty goes, "No, you're not." The woman kind of stops,
Mhm.
like, because she totally could smack her right then. Like, who are you to tell me I'm not gonna smack you? I'm gonna smack you. But it made her pause. And she was like, "What do you mean?" And Betty's like, "I don't have a smack me button.
Wow.
You can't smack me. That trigger, that button is not
Mhm.
inside of me, right?"
Wow.
And it totally changed the dynamic in the room, and it actually had the woman stop and sit down and start to think about the conversation they were having in a different way. But it's such a powerful story because Betty could have reacted in so many different ways. She could have put her in a place, called a guard, had her punished, right?
Right.
She could have gotten scared, ran. Like, there's so many different ways she could have responded in that moment.
Mhm.
But she was at choice because she wasn't a victim to that woman.
Wow, that is pretty extreme. That is a very it takes a lot of trust, right? It takes trust.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, it's powerful. Uh, I want to invite the audience, jump in with us, jump in the chat. What are you hearing? What's this opening up for you? Any
Mm.
questions that you have? We'd love to hear from you as well. Um, and
The great thing with this distinction is there is no shortage of opportunities to use it.
I know, right? Yeah, it is this idea that we're 100% responsible 100% of the time. And and wow, I mean, it is radical. It is radical. And we have to keep in mind, like you said, other people are also 100% responsible for how they're showing up. And if we all show up that way, I mean, you're right. I see peace on earth, just
Mhm.
like you were talking about.
Yeah. And it's important to bring back because I think even some of us who have done the transformation work and this and that, like even that we tend to default back to looking at responsibility as related to the past. And in this context that we're talking about responsibility, it's not. It's related to the future. It's related to the present and moving forward.
Mm.
It's from
That's
here
what
moving
coaching
forward.
is, right? It's about the present and the future.
Mhm.
And like I said, we can validate people because sometimes they'll get stuck in the past. So, turn that timer on, give them their 10 minutes, right?
Mm.
And then moving forward, because we can't change what's happened. Uh,
We can debrief, right? What to do with the past. I think a good tool is to debrief. What
mm,
worked, what didn't work, right? Looking at the situation like this in a neutral way, what worked about what happened, what didn't work about what happened. And of course, when we debrief like that, it's about me, right? It's not what worked, what didn't work about the weather or the traffic. No, no, no. What worked about me, how I showed up, what didn't work about how I contributed, and moving forward, what do I add, what do I shift, right? So we still, there's still something that we're doing with the past. We're using it as information on,
on how to move forward.
yeah.
So, yeah, I love that. We're using the past as a tool, not as a trap,
Mm,
not somewhere for us to sit and linger in, per se, but a way for us to learn, evolve.
yeah. Yeah. And also not as a way of justifying to keep creating the same result, right? Because that's another way also when we're not being responsible, there's also this thing about, well, I grew up this way, or I grew up in this culture, I grew up in this whatever, and or my parents or da da da, and then that is sort of a shield that we put to keep, just to keep justifying to show up in the same way or to do the same thing. And it's not that a lot of times it's not that you wouldn't have every right? If somebody has, they have trauma, they have an experience that really impacted them and that's making it difficult for them to show up in a different way. So it's not that they're not justified sometimes, or it's that they have every right to continue showing up in this way based on their, whatever the past is. But is it effective?
Mm,
Right. And again, it's not about right or wrong. It's about what they say they want. Right. So is it effective to get them there to where they want to be?
right. Yeah. Hmm. I like that because, as coaches, yeah, if that's the world you want to live in, if you really want to be right about that, and it could be even a way that they're protecting themselves, right? That they're, I think that's a big one, but a way they're protecting themselves, trying to protect the people in their life. And it's really easy for us to go and live in those spaces and justify that for why we're acting the way that we're acting. Is it effective? And
Mm,
as coaches, we're always aimed at helping people create a world that works for them, right?
right. So if what they say they want to have is not aligned with this repeating the pattern or the thing that they're doing that they're justifying, that's when we can be in a loving interruption, right? And it's more about, I don't know, the way I look at it, I direct people to what is it costing them, and also what are the payoffs that they're getting for staying in that dynamic. And they may say, oh, none, because I suffer, but it's serving you in some way to keep doing things the same way. And then also, but what is it costing you? And sometimes that helps people start looking at, yeah, if I want to go there, if I want to have that.
So what are, like, give me some examples. Let's say I get in a car accident and I don't see it as being my fault. Maybe
Mm,
the other driver was drinking. right? And it's very easy for me to say it was their fault.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great example from a trainer that I had, yeah, who took this example of a car accident. Somebody ran the light, right? And then he tells the story from the victim point of view, right? I stopped by, I was going at my brother's wedding. I stopped by my mom's to pick up my brother and to pick up somebody, and then she gave me a little, she gave me some food, and I spilled some on my clothes, and then by the time I left, I decided to take a different route, and boom, this person ran the red light and hit my car. And so absolutely not his fault. So he's like, you know, am I right? Like legally, I'm not responsible. They're responsible, right? Legally, like insurance wise, right? But then he started telling the story from the accountable um, frame. And the story he's looking at, it's basically the idea of there are decisions that I made that got me at this intersection at that time to be hit by that car. Does it mean it's my fault? No, but I got myself there based on the route I decided to take. So he really takes accountability of every step, right? I accepted the food, and then I chose to eat. So then I had to change. And then because I spent more time, I took a different route. Had I made a different choice, I would have been on a different street or there, but not at that time. So accountability can be it can be something like this. It was still my decisions that got me at that time in that place. You see how it's really not like, well, I could have swerved, I could have looked more. No, it's really not about blame, but it's about looking at how did I participate.
Hmm. So what's an example like a payoff? Because that term might not be familiar to
Oh
everybody.
yeah.
So in that situation,
Okay. So
um,
the payoff, let's say that the person you get hit and now you're really pissed off and you're mad and you know, I don't know, your insurance is not coming through and you're not gonna, and so you're suffering all this loss from this, and you go on and like, wow, this is so messed up. And what is the payoff you're getting from that? From being in that space of this person was wrong, they did me wrong, and now I suffered this. So examples of payoff can be like you're getting sympathy from people. You're getting, there's something about being in a victim mood, like um people feel sorry for you, so they're gonna listen to you, you're getting attention. You have this sort of satisfaction of being right. Maybe there's some satisfaction of seeing that person being punished.
hmm.
But do you have peace?
So is the payoff then the same as what it's costing me? Because you use
No.
both of those. Tell me the
Yeah,
distinction.
no, the prices would be, well, I have this negative energy, right? I can't get off. Maybe I'm going in
Mm.
circles. Um, I'm stressed, like physically, I'm feeling stressed from this. I'm also boring people. They don't want to hear about it anymore, right? Maybe for a moment they were like, "Oh my God, poor you." They get on the phone, and then after that, they're like, "Yeah, enough."
Time is up. Right.
Yeah. Um, the payoffs are like the short-lived satisfaction. I think Aaron mentioned that too, no, in his coaching shop. Like the payoffs are like this really short-term, short-lived satisfaction we get, instant satisfaction, like eating the chocolate bar, right? and the prices are going to be like the stomach ache, or and the fact that maybe when I'm in that dynamic, I'm also not moving forward to I don't know, to like a resolution. I'm not even really engaging in resolving something. I'm just complaining.
Hmm. So payoffs are kind of like the satisfactions that I get. I don't know if that word is that what I want to say? The satisfaction,
Mm.
because it feels like there's another word I'm grasping for.
It's something that brings you satisfaction in the short term, but in the long term is actually detrimental for you.
Got it.
Right? I
And then,
mean, yeah, it's really when we use in this context, right?
mhm. And then the prices are what I lose. I lose my peace. I lose time stressing. I lose,
I lose my power too, right? Because the same way we're saying, because it's like I'm giving my power over to that person or to the situation to I don't know, I'm just throwing it out. It has a hold on me.
yeah. Yeah. It's almost like there's a part of us that wants to stay a victim sometimes, and maybe not on a conscious level, but because if you were to ask anyone, hey, do you want to be a victim? There's not going to be a lot of hands that go up, right? But it's almost like some part of us does want to kind of stay there and be stuck there.
Yeah, is it because sometimes we may feel like we're gonna be accompanied? If we're stuck, we're gonna get people's sort of pity, or maybe if I take responsibility, I'm gonna be alone because I'm not gonna need other people. It's not
Yeah.
true, but this just brought up some horrible thing that I heard about in the news. Now, this is really extreme and probably from someone with mental illness, but there was a woman who was shooting her kid water and created a whole blog um, about that, where she kept posting about her child and how her child was doing. And they finally, it took years, I think, for the doctors to figure out that she was doing that to her child to get attention and to get sympathy and to get people to engage with her. Like this is like an extreme example of payoff.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's wild. And it almost sounds like borderline mental health
Yeah,
issue,
yeah, yeah,
which
no,
is we don't want to touch in coaching, but the extreme example helps paint a picture of something
yeah.
that's really, I think, part of the human condition. Because every single person on this call listening to this episode later in a recording, if I ask you to tell me a time when you were a victim, you could tell me, right? And you could
Mhm.
tell me really and I would be like nodding my head in agreement, like, yeah, you were totally a victim, right? So as coaches, it's really important that whereas we're validating and we're letting people be human and we're letting them have their experience, we're not getting sucked into their trap, right? And leaving them in this place of victimhood.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah. And an example of responsibility that comes to mind for me is as a mother, right? Um, how much, so my son is 27, and how many times do I think of what it could have been if I knew then what I know now? I was a young mom and young single mom, or really basically raising him by myself, and I was busy and I was always moving around and working a lot and doing a lot of things with him too, a lot of activities. It was a lot of doing. And now looking back, and he'll tell me too, like, I needed you to be more present, just to be, right? To listen and to trust me more. And it's so tempting to beat myself up, right? It's so tempting to be like, oh, to be into how I could have done it, how I should have done it. And even like, wow, well, what are the consequences of that for him, right? How did that impact him into adulthood? And all I have is now, right?
Mm,
So that comes up. Okay. So forgiveness, right? Acceptance, forgiveness. And then how do I show up now? Because now I'm still impacting him, right? So knowing what I know, having using the experience of the past, being present is even more urgent and precious, right?
mm,
So, and it's still something to choose into, it's like responsibility. I feel like it's not like we're turning on the switch of responsibility and, oh, now I'm responsible always and forever, right? It's choosing into it and choosing into it and choosing into it.
mm. And making that practice, making that, part of our life, I think is really important, and something, yeah, we can also forget about is, uh, we are what we practice.
Mm,
There's this great book called Path to Mastery, and in it he talks about how in a really like complex or difficult or bad situation, we don't rise to our standards. We fall to our practices.
mm,
And that's really important, I think, for me to remember and for coaches to remember, because if we're not practicing this stuff in the moment, we're going to fall right back into victimhood, right?
yeah. Yeah, those practices create our new normal, or our new default, right?
Hmm.
After a while.
Yeah.
Mm.
I saw Laura Leeton is here, and she's actually our next special guest in
Awesome.
the coaching shop, and she wants to chime in on payoffs. Payoffs are hidden emotional rewards we get from staying in a familiar pattern, even if it's totally counterproductive. I can see this is my repeated pattern until I am aware of it. Maybe it keeps us from stepping fully into responsibility. Love this conversation. Thanks, Laura. Yeah, absolutely. Until we're aware of it. And that's our job as coaches. Because, until you bring this up, I would have never thought about what the payoffs were for me getting in a car accident, like how I respond to me getting in a car accident, right? That would never even cross my mind that I'm getting something out of that, or what it's costing me. But to become aware of it and presenting these distinctions in a way that our clients can find their cognitive blind spots, right? Because we all have them, things that we're just not even aware that we're doing. And so I think as coaches, being able to bring a distinction to someone and bring it in a way that it really opens up possibility for them. And you'll know you're on the wrong path if it shuts them down, right?
Exactly.
If they get defensive or angry, like, yeah, you probably is a conversation they need to have, but it wasn't presented in a way that
Yeah.
opened something for them.
You can even feel it in the body language when I feel like when if the person is not ready, I'm going too fast with it, I'm going too strong with it. Like I sometimes I see it in the body language immediately. It's like, okay. Hmm.
Hmm. Yeah, and of course, like you said, hindsight's always 2020, right? Um, but the truth is, there isn't any other way something could happen. And we know that because it didn't happen, right?
Right.
There's only one way it could have happened. And
Mhm.
that's the way that it did, right? So we can't go back. We don't have time travel that we know of yet, right? We could go into quantum physics and say time is an illusion and all of that, but that's not super helpful, I think, in this conversation. Right now, we experience time as linear. And we can't go back in the past, but what we can do is change our perception about the past. And when we change our perception about the past, that atonement, that undoing, um, it radically changes the present.
Yeah, and also about our, what was coming to mind also is thinking about the when it becomes where it is very challenging to go into this concept of responsibility and to this practice when people have had trauma, right? And that could be very sensitive. And so, what is it about? How do they deal with the past? Okay, acceptance, maybe like knowing that, working on um, really knowing that they didn't do anything wrong or whatever that is. But a lot of times it's it's not so much that they're not accepting the past or that they want to change the past, but it's really like we were saying, the pattern, so keeping you in a pattern of, well, because this happened to me, I cannot show up any other way. And that's what's challenging, I think, sometimes to in coaching, to debunk or to get the person to really start seeing that they have an agency, that what happened to them isn't taking their agency away.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought this up, Aurelie, because especially for beginner coaches or, people who haven't been here with us for very long, um, these deeper traumas and experience that people have had is not something I want you really going into right now. If someone was, let's say, sexually abused when they were younger, this conversation is probably not the conversation you want to start with, okay, how were you responsible for that? That's going to actually do more damage, right? Quite possibly, and totally break trust and totally break
Mhm.
rapport.
Yeah.
So there's these areas, someone has mental health, someone has deep trauma. There are these areas as coaches, especially as beginners, that we don't, I don't want you to apply this conversation to be honest. It's something for a licensed therapist or someone who specializes in trauma coaching, which you can do. Somatic coaching, for example, is an area you might want to go into if that's something that interests you. But this distinction for right now is more for people who show up to the call like me angry about the person who cut me off today in traffic and just wanting to like really like be in my funk. That's what I want people to apply this conversation for right now. And then at some point, if you want to go deeper into trauma work and stuff like that, you can reach out and we can help you do that.
Mm. Yeah, that's good to mention because we don't want to use any of these distinction as a weapon.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, and it can be because it's so easy to collapse. Even sometimes during this conversation, like my brain wanted to collapse responsibility with blame, right?
Yeah. And I also wouldn't ask someone, how are you responsible? Right? Even like I wouldn't use those words. Um,
Mm,
but again, like I'm looking at there's one person, there's another person, and then there's the relationship is like a third entity or the situation that the two people are creating or in. So it's a third entity. It's not all from one person or from the other. It's like something outside of the two people, but that the two people are co-creating.
yeah,
That
yeah, it's
would not be created in the same way if you exchange one of the two people for another person, that you get a different creation. So it's really, thinking about a fabric, a web, when you choose to participate in a different way, you're gonna create a different result. No matter what, right? No matter if the person keeps contributing in the same way, but you contributing in a different way, it makes the fabric move.
mm, yeah, and that's the point. These distinctions we always want to use to empower people and create a world that works for them. And we have to be super conscious, hyper conscious of not turning it into a weapon, like you said.
Mm.
Really powerful stuff, Aurelie. Thank you so much for being here
Okay,
tonight.
cool.
We're running out of time. Aurelie could probably sit here and discuss this for 3 more hours, but we're not going to. We're going to let all of you enjoy your evening. However, if you are interested in becoming a coach, joining our fantastic alumni that hosts this series, Mitch, my wonderful tech support, is going to go ahead and post a link so you can find out more about Ideal Coaching Global and this 9-month program. I mean, Aurelie, I'm sure you can say that if you want to give me 30 seconds of how this school has been a catalyst for your
Mhm.
life, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, this program is way more than learning how to coach. It's life altering. I remember thinking when I finished the program how I felt my horizon had opened so much from the conversations, from the readings, the interaction, the experiences in the conferences, in the learning calls. And it's I think the philosophical aspect maybe is something that is not found in most coaching programs that makes it so powerful. The practice, the way it's designed, the pace.
Hmm.
It's a really tremendous program. Yeah.
Thanks, Aurelie. And our trainers. I want to talk about Betty Sproul for a
Mm.
second. Betty Sproul is doing a free workshop December 13th. It's a 3-hour workshop, and it's called Consciously Co-Shaping Worlds. And it's really right in line with everything we've been talking about on the Coaching Shop series. It's free to everyone on this call, everyone listening to it later. And it's for all levels of coaches, even if you're just coach curious or you see the value of using coaching distinctions in leadership and relationships in your life. You're welcome to join. And Betty Sproul really is one of the most masterful coaches I've ever witnessed. So be sure to sign up. for her 3-hour workshop. You will not be disappointed. And next week, also, as I said, we're going to be meeting with Laura, and we're going to be talking about questioning versus leading and how to coach without trying to fix, which is a really juicy topic. We're going to prove it to you. So 2 weeks, we meet every other Tuesday live, or you can go to our YouTube channel and watch previous episodes of the coaching shop if you missed it. So thank you. Thank you everyone for participating. It's so great to see the alumni on the call and new people joining us. Welcome, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Kyla, for the conversation. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Bye. See you in 2 weeks.